The rain hammered down on the grimy city, each drop exploding into a million tiny stars on the cracked pavement. Neon lights bled across slick, rain-soaked streets, turning night into day. A lone figure moved through this urban labyrinth, a ghost swallowed by the shadows. His face, half hidden beneath a heavy coat, was a mask of grim determination. This was Adrian Cole, and he was hunting. The sleek black sedan glided through the city like a phantom. Inside, bathed in the soft glow of the interior lights, sat Adrian Cole, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Beside him, Marcus Hale, former cop and Adrian's mentor, studied the layout of the building they were approaching. Each floor was like a layer in a cake, each apartment hiding a different secret. Tonight, they were on the trail of Isabella Rossi, one of Victor Kane's accountants. She knew the flow of money in and out of Kane's businesses, and her ledger could open many doors for Adrian. As the elevator ascended, the air grew thick with tension. Reaching the 16th floor, they stepped out into a dimly lit hallway. Apartment 1608 was their target. Marcus, his senses alert, took the lead, Adrian close behind. A subtle creak at the door signaled their presence. Inside, papers rustled as Isabella sorted through ledgers. Her head snapped up as the intruders entered. "Who are you? What do you want?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Information," Adrian said, his voice low and dangerous. "Information that belongs to Mr. Kane." Isabella's eyes darted to the door, searching for an escape, but it was too late. Adrian moved with a speed that belied his size, crossing the room in a flash. He leaned over Isabella, his face inches from hers, and whispered, "Where does Victor keep his money?" Panic flickered across Isabella's face. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, but her composure was cracking. Adrian could see the fear in her eyes, smell the lie in her breath. With a sigh, he straightened up, realizing the accountant wouldn't break so easily. "Marcus," he said, turning to his companion, "we'll have to pay a social call on Mr. Kane." At the stroke of midnight, Victor Kane stood in his luxurious office, the city sprawling beneath him like a glittering prize. On the far wall, a giant screen flickered with stock prices, a testament to his financial empire. His phone rang, shattering the silence. Victor picked up the receiver, his smile fading as he listened. His gaze, sharp and predatory, locked onto the city lights. "Adrian Cole," he murmured, the name a venomous whisper on his lips. "So the game has begun." The drive to Kane's residence was a study in contrasts. Marcus at the wheel, his face grim, expertly navigating the city's arteries. Adrian in the passenger seat, his eyes narrowed, watching the city like a hawk eyeing its prey. Finally, the towering gates of Kane's estate loomed before them. The wrought iron masterpiece was a mocking display of wealth and power, a symbol of everything Adrian sought to destroy. As the black sedan slipped through the gates, Adrian's senses went into overdrive. Every sense was a weapon now, every instinct honed to a razor's edge. In the opulent living room of Victor's mansion, Adrian stood bathed in the glow of 1,000 candles. Opulence surrounded him, yet he felt no luxury, only a growing hunger for vengeance. Victor Kane emerged from the shadows, his face a mask of controlled fury. "Adrian Cole." He spat out the name, each syllable dripping with contempt. "You've caused enough trouble. It ends tonight." A tense standoff ensued, each man sizing up the other, the air crackling with unspoken threats. Then Victor let out a harsh laugh, the sound echoing through the grand hall. "You're alone," he sneered at Adrian. "Without backup, you're nothing." Adrian met his gaze, his expression unreadable. Suddenly, gunfire shattered the silence. Startled by the sudden intrusion, Adrian instinctively dived for cover. Bullets whizzed past him, embedding themselves in the antique furniture. He glanced over his shoulder, spotting Marcus slumped against the door, blood staining his white shirt. Fury surged through Adrian, hot and consuming. He sprang to his feet, his eyes blazing with righteous anger. Victor watched him, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "You're too late," he taunted, gesturing to the fallen Marcus. "He's already dead." Adrian's jaw clenched, his fingers curled into fists. The grief and rage were a potent mix, fueling his determination. In the ensuing struggle, Adrian fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal, each blow a testament to his burning rage. But Victor, trained in the art of combat, was a whirlwind of fists and kicks. He landed a solid punch, sending Adrian crashing to the floor. Despite the searing pain in his ribs, Adrian refused to yield. He rolled away from another haymaker, scrambled to his feet, and pressed his attack. Victor staggered back, surprised by the relentless assault. Seizing the moment, Adrian delivered a vicious kick to Victor's groin. A wince of pain crossed Victor's face, giving Adrian the opening he needed. He launched himself at his opponent, raining punches onto his face until Victor crumpled to the floor, his eyes dull with pain. As Victor lay gasping on the floor, Adrian loomed over him, his face inches from Victor's. "For Marcus," he whispered, each word heavy with vengeance. With that, he delivered a final punch, knocking Victor into unconsciousness. Victorious Kane lay sprawled on the floor, his face a mask of pain and defeat. Adrian stood over him, his chest heaving, his face etched with grim satisfaction. In the aftermath of the fight, Adrian stood amidst the ruins of Victor's study, sorting through the incriminating documents. Victor's empire was vast, his crimes buried deep within layers of complex financial records. But Adrian was methodical, his focus unwavering. Among the piles of paperwork, he found the key to bringing down Victor Kane's entire empire. Days turned into weeks as Adrian meticulously pieced together the fragments of Victor's crimes. He uncovered hidden accounts, illicit business dealings, and a web of deceit that extended far beyond Adrian's wildest imaginings. All the while, the city remained blissfully unaware, its citizens safeguarded by the illusion of Victor's untouchable status. As dawn broke, bathing the city in hues of gold and crimson, Adrian made his move. He contacted the authorities, providing them with irrefutable evidence that implicated Victor Kane in a myriad of crimes. The news spread like wildfire. Headlines blared the downfall of Victor Kane, the untouchable tycoon. The very foundations of his empire trembled as law enforcement descended upon his properties, sealing them off with yellow police tape. Within hours, Victor Kane's world came crashing down around him. He was arrested in his own mansion, his face ashen, his eyes devoid of their usual arrogance. As Victor was led away in handcuffs, the crowd jeered, their voices a chorus of anger and condemnation. Adrian stood amidst the throng, his face impassive, his mission nearing its end. But the true test was yet to come. The courtroom drama was intense. The air crackled with tension as prosecutors and defense attorneys dueled, each word a weapon in their arsenal. Adrian sat as a witness, his testimony dismantling Victor's defenses, exposing the man's intricate web of lies. The evidence Adrian had so carefully gathered now formed a formidable wall against Victor, leaving him trapped with no way out. Amidst the legal proceedings, whispers echoed through the city. Adrian Cole, the mysterious man who brought down Victor Kane. His name became synonymous with justice, with retribution. But Adrian felt no elation, no triumph. The victory was hollow, the justice incomplete. As the final gavel echoed through the courtroom, signifying Victor Kane's fate, Adrian felt a profound emptiness. The long journey of vengeance had reached its end, but the scars it left on his soul were eternal. Looking out at the gray skies, he wondered if the storm within him would ever clear. The ordeal had changed him, leaving him forever marked by loss and vengeance. And so, Adrian Cole vanished into the twilight, his legend growing with each passing day. Some spoke of him in hushed tones, others dismissed him as a figment of the city's imagination. But in the annals of the city's underworld, Adrian Cole became a symbol, a testament to the indomitable spirit of vengeance. And perhaps that was enough. The darkness of night had always been fear for Adrian Cole, but now it was his ally. Rain-slicked streets muffled his steps as he moved like a shadow. Marcus Hale had taught him to strike unseen, to be everywhere and nowhere at once. But Adrian had quickly surpassed him. Adrian, Marcus had said one night, you're no longer the architect who built homes. You're becoming something else. Once you walk this path, there's no turning back. The only ends are death or blood. Adrian understood. He was already dying inside, kept alive only by one purpose: revenge. Victor Kane's empire was vast. On the surface, construction projects and import-export businesses. Beneath a web of corruption, smuggling, and criminal networks touching every office, precinct, and council chamber. Challenging Victor would have been impossible for anyone else. But Adrian was no longer anyone. With Marcus's guidance, he chose his first target, Damian Cross. Victor's lieutenant overseeing finances and shipments. Adrian observed him for days, mapping every movement, every pattern. One night, Damian left a club alone. Adrian intercepted him, pulling him into a dark alley. Who are you? What do you want? Damian asked, panic in his eyes. I'm here to stop the crimes you serve. Your choices have consequences. Moments later, Damian was incapacitated, unable to continue his work. Adrian retrieved documents linking him to Victor's operations and left him in the shadows, a warning to others. By morning, the city buzzed. Victor Kane's right-hand man had been taken down. Police called it gang violence, but Victor knew better. Someone was dismantling his empire, piece by piece, and he would find out who, though hell would freeze over first. Claire Voss, investigative journalist and Elena's friend, had suspected Victor's role in Elena's death. Now she discovered Adrian, transformed into a shadow of vengeance. One night she confronted him. You're doing this? The strikes? The attacks? I'm delivering justice. The law could never provide, Adrian said. This path will consume you. I know what it feels like to lose everything, but don't let it consume you, Adrian. I won't let it consume me. Adrian lied, unable to admit he was already lost. Claire shook her head, unable to sway him. She decided to stay, determined to witness the truth and expose it. Victor unleashed his deadliest operative, Logan Pierce, trained to track shadows. Adrian believed he was the hunter, but now he was hunted too. On a rainy night, Adrian perched atop a rooftop, scanning the streets below. Alina, Sophie, I won't fail you. There's no turning back. Somewhere in the darkness, Logan moved, calculating, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Adrian's strikes continued, each target neutralized efficiently, each move precise. Fear rippled through Victor's empire. Rumors spread of a ghost dismantling the underworld. Shipments delayed, associates vanished, panic set in. Adrian infiltrated warehouses, disabling operations, leaving no trace but disruption and warning signs. Claire's investigation drew her closer to the truth, documenting Victor's hidden crimes. Each new lead confirmed Adrian's crusade, each encounter fueling his resolve. One evening, Adrian found Victor at a waterfront warehouse surrounded by bodyguards. It was a trap, but Adrian couldn't resist. This was the heart of Victor's empire. Disabling it would send a clear message. He slipped past security, moving like a phantom through shadows and darkness. Victor sensed him, a predator aware of the mouse in its lair. The game was on. In the labyrinthine depths of the warehouse, Adrian navigated steel pillars and looming crates, his senses heightened. Whispers echoed of Victor's brutality, of rivals silenced and witnesses vanished. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the gloom, tall, lean, with eyes as cold as steel. Logan Pierce, up close. Adrian saw the lethal efficiency etched in every line of Logan's face, the quiet menace of a coiled spring. Their eyes met and recognition sparked between them. Logan was the shadow chaser, the rumored ghost hunter. Adrian, the specter haunting Victor's empire. For a moment, they stood locked in a silent duel of wills, two predators sizing up their prey. Then Logan moved, a blur of motion that spoke of countless battles and honed instincts. Adrian countered, their movements interweaving in a deadly dance. Each move was a calculated risk, every strike aimed at disabling, not killing. Adrian was playing a long game, a war of attrition against Victor's inner circle. As the fight raged, whispers echoed through the cavernous space, adding a haunting soundtrack to their deadly ballet. Adrian parried a blow, using Logan's momentum against him, sending a sharp pain lancing through the man's shoulder. Logan snarled, momentarily distracted. In that instant, Adrian seized his chance, darting forward to plant a data retrieval device on Logan's back. Moments later, he was gone, melting into the shadows as silently as he'd appeared. A faint humming filled the air as the device transmitted data. Adrian's final touch, a calling card for Victor. This was a message, a warning. If Logan failed to retrieve information, it wouldn't just be his mission compromised, but his life. Back in his lair, Victor reviewed the data Adrian had sent. It was a list, names and numbers linked to Victor's underbelly, evidence of his empire's rot. Each piece was a nail hammered into Victor's carefully crafted image, driving home the truth. Adrian's voice echoed in Victor's ear, a constant reminder of his failure. The rain outside intensified, mirroring the storm brewing within Victor. His empire was crumbling, his secrets exposed, and he knew the architect of it all, Adrian Cole, the man who dared challenge the shadows. With each passing day, Adrian chipped away at Victor's defenses, striking at key figures, crippling supply chains, and exposing hidden truths. The city became his battleground, the darkness, his ally. But amidst the chaos, a seed of doubt sprouted within Adrian. Was he becoming the very thing he sought to destroy? The path of vengeance was a treacherous one. It demanded a toll, testing the limits of Adrian's resolve. Yet he pressed on, driven by an insatiable need for retribution. Yet amidst the shadows, a beacon of hope flickered. Claire's investigation illuminated not just Victor's crimes, but Adrian's crusade. Her work painted a stark contrast, exposing the brutality of Victor's rule while hinting at the complexity of Adrian's mission. Through her lens, Adrian was more than a vengeful spirit. He was a symbol of defiance against unyielding darkness. On a stormy night, Adrian made his move on Victor's headquarters. With precision and speed, he disabled security systems, moving like a wraith through the labyrinthine halls. The closer he got to Victor, the more the weight of his purpose pressed upon him. Each step echoed with the ghosts of those Victor had harmed. But as he breached Victor's office, the full extent of Victor's cruelty hit him. Files lay scattered, evidence of Adrian's own past intertwined with Victor's crimes. Adrian reeled, shaken to his core. In that moment, he questioned everything. Was this crusade worth the price it exacted? Was there a way out of this encroaching darkness? Victor emerged from behind his desk, a predator cornered. He offered Adrian a twisted smile, a testament to the lengths he'd go to maintain his dominion. The final showdown was inevitable, but as their eyes met, a flicker of recognition passed between them. They were two sides of the same coin, both forged in the fires of loss, both consumed by the shadows. When the police finally descended on Victor's HQ, they found it a scene of devastation. Data was destroyed, files were scattered, and Victor was nowhere to be seen. Adrian had struck a fatal blow to Victor's empire, but the architect had vanished, leaving behind a city forever changed. Adrian disappeared into the labyrinth of his own purpose, haunted by the ghosts of his past and the echoes of the vendetta he'd unleashed. As the city grappled with the fallout, Claire uncovered the final pieces of the puzzle, tying Victor's crimes to Adrian's tragic past. The truth was a mosaic of deceit, corruption, and a shared history that bound Adrian and Victor in ways neither had anticipated. In the aftermath, the question lingered: can vengeance ever bring solace, Or is it a siren's call that leads only to deeper darkness? And what will become of the city now that its unseen protector has vanished? And so the story of Nightchaser comes to its dramatic conclusion. If you enjoyed this tale, please leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, stay safe in the shadows. The city knights always pulled Adrian toward them. He was no longer a man of light, he now belonged to the shadows. When the raindrops struck the streets, it felt as if the earth itself was absorbing his grief. But within that grief, another feeling was growing power. After the death of Victor Kane's man, Damien Cross, fear spread through the city. Everyone close to Victor became cautious, unsure of who might be next. But on Victor's face burned nothing but rage. He knew this strike came not from another gang, but from a greater enemy. That's why he unleashed Logan Pierce. Logan wasn't like the others. He wasn't just a killer, he was a hunter. His method was patience, to watch his prey until he found the weakness, and then strike with lethal precision. Meanwhile, Adrian was preparing himself even further. With Marcus, he spent hours practicing with firearms, training hand-to-hand combat, and drawing lines on city maps like an architect sketching a new design. Only this time, the design wasn't a home, it was a cemetery wall, and each brick was a symbol of his vengeance. Claire, too, was coming closer to him. She had been Elena's friend, and she believed with certainty that Victor was behind her death. At first, Adrian tried to push her away, but her determination and courage unsettled him. One day she said to him, "You can't win this war alone. You need someone to keep you tied to reality. Otherwise, you'll become just like the killers you're fighting against." Adrian answered coldly, "I have already become like them, Claire. The only difference is my purpose." Claire saw the emptiness in his eyes, the emptiness that once had been filled with Elena's love. She said nothing, but in her heart, she decided she would not leave his side. Meanwhile, Logan Pierce had begun tracking Adrian. He examined the site of Damien's death, studied the bloodstains, and listened to witness accounts. All of them spoke of the killer's eyes that carried no fear. Logan whispered to himself, "This man isn't an ordinary killer. He's someone who has already lost the fear of death." Soon Logan found Adrian's first trail. He learned that Adrian often spent nights in the old part of the city, where ruins and deserted alleys stretched endlessly. That was where Logan decided to set his trap. One night, Adrian entered an abandoned warehouse, tipped off about the presence of another of Victor's men. But the moment he stepped inside, the darkness seemed to close in around him. Suddenly, a light flickered on and there stood Logan Pierce, a knife in his hand, a mysterious smile on his face. "So it's you," Logan said slowly. "The shadow that's been cutting down Victor's men. I'll admit, you've played well, but the game ends here." Adrian said nothing, his cold gaze locked onto Logan. The two measured each other, like hunters staring at the same prey. Logan struck first. The knife flashed like lightning, but Adrian ducked, just in time. He countered with a punch. But Logan caught his hand and twisted it, throwing him off balance. They fell into a brutal struggle on the ground. Every strike was lethal, every movement a balance between life and death. For a moment, Adrian felt Logan overpowering him. Logan was a professional killer, trained in violence, hardened by countless battles. But Adrian carried a fire inside him that no training could rival. With all his strength, he slammed Logan into the wall, pressing the knife to his throat. "I could end you right here," Adrian said, breathless. Logan smiled through the pain. "Do it. But remember, my death will be Victor's signal that you're close. He'll unleash the whole city against you." Adrian hesitated for a moment. Then he pulled the knife back, shoving Logan to the ground. "No, not yet. I want you alive so you can tell Victor this. The same death he gave my family is now knocking on his door." Logan laughed, spitting blood. "You're dangerous, Adrian. But remember, the fire you've lit will burn you to ashes too." Adrian vanished into the darkness, leaving Logan barely alive. When Victor saw Logan, his expression hardened with a seriousness his men had never seen before. Logan told him, "This isn't just some enemy, Victor. This is a man with nothing left to lose. And enemies like that are the most dangerous of all." Victor crushed his cigar, slamming his fist on the table. "Then we find him, and when we do, he'll taste the same torment he carries in his heart." A new war was brewing in the city. This was no longer just Adrian's revenge, which was an all-out battle. Meanwhile, Claire became more certain than ever that Adrian stood in the middle of a storm. She decided to recover Elena's lost file, the one that held Victor's darkest secrets. She believed that, maybe, just maybe, this would become Adrian's greatest weapon. Days turned into weeks, and the body count rose higher and higher. Every life snuffed out by the assassins only fueled Adrian's determination. Names, faces, stories. Such victim became a piece of his mission, a thread in the fabric of his vengeance. He moved like a ghost, striking when least expected, vanishing before anyone could react. Victor's forces were relentless, but Adrian was always one step ahead, anticipating their moves, exploiting their weaknesses. In the dark corners of the city, whispers grew louder. Who was this mysterious killer? What drove him to bring Victor down? Fear turned to respect, and the question hung in the air: could anyone stand against the merciless Victor Kane? In the depths of her despair, Claire had found a clue, a faint lead that could link Victor to Elena's death. It was a gamble, but she decided to go all in, diving into the city's underbelly, seeking information. The city at night was a different world, and Claire was determined to navigate its dangers to uncover the truth. Every face she encountered, every word spoken could bring her closer to Victor's secrets. Each step was a test of her courage, her resolve. As Adrian's attacks intensified, Victor's paranoia grew. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every whisper a warning. The city, once his domain, now felt like a trap. Fear gnawed at his men, creating rifts of mistrust. Victor, consumed by rage and fear, grew more isolated, his inner circle shrinking with each passing day. Then came the moment when the pieces of the puzzle aligned. Claire stumbled upon a hidden file, its contents shaking her to the core. It was the missing piece she had sought, the link between Victor and Elena's past. Armed with this newfound knowledge, she returned to Adrian, ready to share what she had discovered. Their paths, once separate, now converged. The revelation from the file illuminated Adrian's purpose, making their joint mission even more crucial. Together, they devised a strategy, a plan to expose Victor's darkest secrets and bring him to justice. As the final showdown approached, tension gripped the city. Every move was scrutinized, every action weighed. The balance of power shifted, and the outcome remained uncertain. The coming days would decide the fate of the city, its people, and the legacy of those lost. The city held its breath. The stage was set for the ultimate confrontation, a battle of wills, a clash of destinies. Adrian, driven by vengeance, Victor, consumed by fear and rage, who would prevail in this deadly game? The answer lay hidden in the heart of the city, shrouded in darkness and deceit. But as the night deepened, so did the danger. The shadows grew longer, concealing secrets and plotting revenge. In this intricate web of deceit, loyalty was tested, alliances were forged, and the true cost of vengeance was revealed. The city's fate hung in the balance, teetering between justice and despair. The night was far from over, and the final act was yet to be played. Stay tuned for the next chapter as the narrative takes a thrilling turn. The plot thickens, and the boundaries between good and evil become blurred. Will Adrian find redemption or succumb to the darkness he embraces? The choice is yours to make. The city slept under a blanket of darkness, but beneath the streets, corruption and fear thrived. For Adrian Cole, the shadows were his domain. He moved in them with practiced ease, a wraith of vengeance. And Victor Kane's empire was beginning to feel the tremors of his wrath. Victor's men were vanishing without a trace, some gone, some incapacitated, but all bearing silent testimony to Adrian's chilling efficiency. Victor knew Adrian was behind it, and the looming question was how could he stop him? But Adrian had one more trick up his sleeve, one that would send shockwaves through Victor's carefully constructed world. At the heart of it was something Victor feared more than Adrian himself. The lost Elena's file. It was a Pandora's box of corruption and conspiracy, and its contents could bring Victor's entire empire crashing down. Claire Voss, investigative journalist and Elena's friend, was closing in on the truth. She had followed every lead, chased every whisper, and now she was on the verge of a breakthrough. In an abandoned church, hidden away from prying eyes, Claire met with Adrian. It was a clandestine meeting, a rendezvous in the dark, and the air was thick with tension as they exchanged the file. "This is it," Adrian said, his voice low and intense. His eyes, burning with purpose, reflected the flickering candlelight. "This will bring Victor to his knees." Claire, ever the pragmatist, countered. "Adrian, if this falls into the wrong hands, both of us are in danger. You must be careful." The gravity of her words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the risks they were taking. Adrian, however, was resolute. "This is Elena's fight. I'll finish it." Meanwhile, Victor was in a fury. His empire was being threatened, his power challenged, and he would not stand for it. He turned to Logan Pierce, his right-hand man, a man known for his ruthless efficiency, and gave him a simple order. "Find Adrian Cole. I want him brought to me, dead or alive." Logan, ever obedient, acknowledged the task, disappearing into the city's underbelly. As Logan tracked Adrian, he noticed a pattern, a recurring shadow that seemed to be following Adrian. A woman. He watched her from a distance, intrigued and cautious. Her name was Claire, and she was becoming a vital part of Adrian's mission. Logan recognized her as the reporter who had been digging into Elena's case. Now she was in danger, and Adrian seemed determined to protect her. Richard Hale was a pivotal player in Victor's empire, controlling illegal shipments that flowed into the city. At the docks, Adrian made his move, striking at the heart of Richard's operation. With precise and calculated moves, Adrian took out the power supply, plunging the docks into darkness. In the ensuing chaos, he neutralized Richard's men, turning the tide against them. By the time the police arrived, Richard was the only one left standing, his face pale with fear and defeat. Adrian had struck a critical blow to Victor's network, sending shockwaves that would be felt throughout the criminal underworld. Richard, now under Adrian's control, would become a key witness against Victor, a testament to Adrian's strategic brilliance. As the body count rose and fear started to grip Victor's inner circle, Victor himself was shaken. He paced his opulent office, the city's skyline a mocking backdrop to his mounting anxiety. "This isn't a man," he growled, his voice echoing the turmoil within him. "This is death itself, always lurking, always striking, always a step ahead." The realization dawned on him. Adrian was no ordinary opponent. He was a force of nature, relentless and unstoppable. In the face of such overwhelming odds, Adrian and Claire found solace in each other's company. They had forged a deep bond, united by their shared purpose and the growing danger that surrounded them. One evening, as they took a moment away from the chaos, Claire turned to Adrian, her voice soft yet firm. "You've given your life to revenge," she said, "but when it's over, what will be left for you?" The question hung between them, a reminder of the sacrifices Adrian had made and the toll it had taken on him. "Nothing," Adrian admitted, his voice hollow with weariness. "But at least the city will know someone stood against Victor." Logan, ever loyal, presented Victor with a new plan. Capture Claire, knowing it would lure Adrian into a trap. Victor agreed, and that night she was taken. When Adrian received the news, he immediately set out to rescue her. On reaching Victor's hideout, he found a note on the table. "So you found Elena's file," Victor's taunting words echoed. "Do you think it can stop me? You'll be the bait for Adrian." The fire within Adrian burned brighter, fueled by righteous anger and love for Claire. "Victor," he whispered, his voice a dangerous growl, "this game ends tonight." The confrontation was inevitable, a collision of two forces, one driven by unfathomable loss, and the other by insatiable greed and power. And as the night wore on, the city held its breath, bracing for the storm that was about to break. In the shadowy depths of Victor Kane's headquarters, surrounded by the echoes of his enemies' screams, Adrian Cole stood amidst the ruins of his vengeance. His dark attire, usually an emblem of power and mystery, was now stained with the grime of battle, mirroring the turmoil within his soul. The victory he had fought so relentlessly for felt hollow, a gaping wound in his chest where his purpose once resided. He turned away from the carnage, his shadowed face unreadable in the dim glow of the emergency lights flickering overhead. In his hands, he clutched a battered metal pipe, its cold surface offering a strange comfort. It was a stark contrast to the elegance he usually exuded, but it was a reminder of the brutality he had faced and the lengths he had gone to claim this hollowed-out triumph. His gaze fell upon a shattered picture frame on the ground, a remnant of Victor Kane's opulent taste, and now a symbol of his downfall. The image within the frame was of a laughing family, a cruel mockery of the tragedy that had befallen Adrian and those he loved. Elena, Sophie, Claire, their faces swam before his eyes, each a ghost of happiness and hope. They were his anchors to humanity, the reasons he had waged this merciless war. But now they were also his burdens, their hopes and dreams pressing down on him like shackles. His phone vibrated in his pocket, a lifeline to the outside world. He pulled it out, the screen illuminating his haggard features. It was a message from Claire, her words echoing in his mind long after he had read them. "Thank you." Such a simple word, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 battles. It was a testament to the shared trauma they had endured, the silent understanding forged in the crucible of Victor Kane's machinations. He knew Claire was trying to be strong, but he saw through her facade. She was as wounded as he was, her spirit bruised by the ordeal they had both faced. As he stared at the message, memories flooded back. The abduction, the captivity, the desperate hope that had sustained him through the darkest hours. It was a torment he wouldn't wish on his worst enemy. The agonizing weight that had gnawed at his soul, questioning whether he would ever see her again. Yet here he was, victorious, but at what cost? The weight of that question pressed down on him, suffocating him like a shroud. In the silence of the ruined warehouse, he heard the whispers of his fallen enemies, their voices weaving a haunting melody of defeat. It was a chilling requiem to the fallen, a lament for the lives shattered beyond repair. He closed his eyes, trying to shut out the cacophony of Victor's empire crumbling around him, but the whispers seemed to seep into his very being, embedding themselves in the recesses of his tormented soul. He was adrift in a sea of shadows, buffeted by the winds of grief and vengeance. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of gray and purple, he felt the weight of his solitude crushing him. It was a profound loneliness that transcended the physical, a desolate emptiness that echoed the cavernous hollowness within him. He was surrounded by the debris of his past, trapped in the ruins of his former life. The city around him stirred, oblivious to the cataclysm that had unfolded within these four walls. The chirping of birds and the distant hum of activity were like shards of glass piercing his soul, reminding him of the world he had almost lost. He wanted to reach out, to grasp at something, anything, to anchor himself to reality, but his hand met only empty air, a tangible representation of his intangible grief. Then a soft touch on his arm startled him, pulling him back from the abyss. Claire stood there, her eyes filled with concern. Her presence, like a beacon in the darkness, offered a fragile hope, a lifeline to the world he had almost abandoned. He looked into her eyes, searching for solace. In their depths, he saw his own pain reflected back at him, a mirror to his tormented soul. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, yet it cut through the haze that had enveloped him. In that moment, he realized he wasn't alone. Her vulnerability mirrored his own, forging a bond between them that transcended the physical. He nodded, unable to speak, his throat constricted by a grief that threatened to consume him. Words failed him. What could he say to express the torment that had become his existence? The labyrinth of his emotions twisted within him, a tangled mess of loss, vengeance, and a burgeoning hope for healing. She reached out, her fingers tracing the lines on his face, her touch a balm to his battered soul. And in that touch, he found a measure of solace, a shared understanding that defied the boundaries of language. It was a silent acknowledgement of the ordeal they had weathered, the scars that ran deeper than skin. He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch, letting the warmth of human contact envelop him for a fleeting moment. The whispers faded, the shadows receded, and he dared to hope that the sun might shine through the cracks in his world once more. As the day wore on, the weight of his victory pressed down on Adrian like a leaden shroud. The sprawling metropolis bustled with life, oblivious to the seismic events that had transpired within its shadowed underbelly. The vibrant energy of the city mocked his own listlessness, highlighting the chasm that had opened within him. He found himself wandering through the concrete jungle, a ghost haunting the streets he once commanded. The familiar streets seemed alien, the vibrant lifeblood of the city pulsing around him, indifferent to his internal turmoil. A sudden commotion broke through the ambient noise, drawing his attention to a group of people gathered around a television. The screen displayed the image of Victor Kane's lifeless form, the newscaster's voice echoing his demise. Even in death, Victor's face held a twisted mockery of life, his eyes staring vacantly into the abyss. Adrian's gaze locked onto those lifeless orbs, a strange sense of closure washing over him. Victor was gone, his reign of terror finally ended. But with his death, a new emptiness had arisen within Adrian. He had sought this moment for so long, fueled by the fires of vengeance, but now that it had come, it had brought not resolution, but an echoing hollowness. He turned away, seeking solace in the anonymity of the crowds. Yet he was seen. A young woman, her eyes shining with admiration, approached him, holding out a piece of paper. "Mr. Cole," she breathed, her voice filled with awe. "I wanted to thank you. You gave us back our city." Her words were a litany of praise, echoing sentiments he knew were shared by many. He regarded the proffered paper, a crudely drawn image of him as a dark knight wielding justice against the forces of evil. A small smile touched his lips. The recognition, the gratitude, it was a validation he had not sought, yet it warmed him in a way he had almost forgotten. In the eyes of the people, he was a hero, a savior who had delivered them from the clutches of tyranny. But he knew better. He was no hero. He was a man driven by loss and vengeance, a man haunted by the shadows of his past. He accepted the drawing, tucking it away, the child's faith in him a stark contrast to his own disillusionment. With a final nod, he disappeared into the throng, leaving the girl and her dreams of heroism behind. As the evening shadows lengthened, Adrian found himself standing at the precipice of a new beginning. Behind him, the city blazed with the promise of a brighter future, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. But before him lay the daunting task of forging his own path. In a world reshaped by his actions, the faces of Elena, Sophie, and Claire, the ghosts that had spurred him on, now seemed more distant, their whispers fading into the twilight of his memory. He had avenged them, yet their absence echoed in the chambers of his heart. He had emerged from the crucible of war victorious, but the scars of his journey ran deep, marring the landscape of his soul. He was a warrior without an army, a king without a kingdom, and the vastness of his solitude overwhelmed him. As the stars began to pepper the darkening sky, he made a decision. He would roam, becoming a phantom, a specter of justice, forever walking the tightrope between light and darkness. For Adrian Cole was a creature of the shadows, forever bound to the night.